Oracle. I didn't want to involve with that last 60 seconds because I know I'm going to trouble you more in the second segment. All right, now, so in the second segment, I have back Dr. Chris Waje. I'm going to have Professor Zelalem Mengistu, the President, Ethiopia IPv6 Council. And in fact, special honor. Thank you so very much. He's been there from the start. Thank you so very much.
Thank
He's
you.
been there from the start. I'm so grateful that you're there. And also we have Jack Jones, the head of infrastructure and business program manager at BSV Association in Canada. Jack Jones.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Excellent, excellent. Nice. I've heard your voice now. The other time I called, but I saw your message anyway. Thank you so very much. This segment is going to be another very brilliant one. May I know if we have Dr. Riyad in the house?
No, he cannot join. He's in the plane now.
Oh, great, great, great. Excellent. So this session is about another segment. And we did this because we needed to be sure we manage the time zones in the course of getting the facts that we need at this particular stage. So it's also an extended, very wonderful panel that we're going to have here. And let me take this as the opportunity to give the floor to Professor Zelalem, please. Just in 1 second, sir. In a minute, just try to express who you are, sir, clearly, so that we get to meet you. Let's meet you, and after, we also meet Mr. Jack Jones.
Thank you. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. I'm Zelalem Mengistu. I'm in the cyber field for the last 18 years, and I'm the president of the Ethiopia IPv6 Council. And it was a pleasure meeting you all.
Right, thank you. So let's meet Jack Jones.
Hi, thanks for having me. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My background is computer science, and I've been working in the blockchain field for the past 3 or 4 years. Before that, I was in insurance. And yeah, my focus is IPv6, AI, and blockchain.
Thank you
Thanks.
very much. And once more, Dr. Chris, you help me just share a comments for the new opening, sir.
Okay, thank you, Amos. My name is Chris Waje, and of course, I think I've pitched Jack Jones and Zelalem and all of them, and so I'm just excited meeting them because this is a powerful house, of intersection of quantum computing, AI, and IPv6, and deliverables to mankind. So I'm just happy to be here. Thank you, guys. Yeah. You're welcome.
Okay. All right. Let me relate my co-moderator, Mr. Timmy Tokwe. Let me also have you on board. Let's share your intro. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Oh, very well. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so my name is Timmy Tokwe. I currently work with the National Assembly, but I'm a cyber security person. I have a degree in security, and I'm also very good with sustainability. That's who I am for now. Thank you very much.
Okay. Right. So the first question, let me use my piece. Yeah. Permit me to give the first question. Right. Let me start from okay. Now, let me start from Jack Jones. Now, from your global vantage point, what are the most costly technical and security pitfalls that other regions fell into during their IPv6 transition that African nations must absolutely avoid, sir?
Yeah, it's a great question. So all the talks today have been excellent, and I think most of these have actually been covered, but there's a couple that were either glossed over or weren't quite mentioned. And so I would start by saying the biggest hindrance is delaying the rollout to IPv6. This is obviously very difficult to manage because it's one of those things where it has to do with cash flow and access to equipment and all of that stuff. But if the rollout can be planned or phased out and that cost can be spread out over the phases, I think that's one thing that can help a lot, because otherwise you're waiting until all of your IPv4 addresses are exhausted, and then you're really crunched and pressed for time to try and make the switch over at the last second. And then you're adding to your costs, higher chances of mistakes and failures. So it's better to do it in a measured way, which has already been very much discussed today. So it's been great. The next major point I would say is being careful with the fragile mechanisms to try and do dual stack. So an example of this would be like 6to4 or Teredo, those technologies where you're trying to manage both together. It's a lot better to do it separately. So you want a separate native IPv4 implementation and a separate native IPv6 implementation. It's better to do it that way. And there's even some examples like I think it's Avnik had failure rates of up to like 20%. I think Teredo was even 40%. So trying to add that complexity definitely is a major pitfall. And then building off of that, so sorry, I thought somebody had a question there. But yeah, just continuing on, I guess, building off of that, I would say another big pitfall is the complexity factor. And so this was actually already covered, but education is extremely important because the stacks are so different. You do need to reskill, and you need to have those programs in place to educate operators so that they know what they're doing and they know how to implement, because misconfigurations can happen, DNS errors, all kinds of things can happen if you don't have that good education base set up. Another thing would be privacy gaps. So that's things like static IP addressing. This was already pretty extensively covered by Sarisha and some others. So we don't need to really go into that. And I think, yeah, I can't really think of anything else. So I think that probably covers it.
Right. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much there. And let me just try to speak to Professor Mengistu. Now, from Ethiopia's implementation perspective, sir, what have been the biggest technical and cultural challenges in driving IPv6 adoption within the public sector, and how are you overcoming them? Professor Mengistu?
Thank you so much. That's really excellent to get questioned on. So Ethiopia's journey towards the overall IPv6 adoption within the public sector, of course, has encountered several technical and cultural challenges like any other African countries or those who are trying to embrace this IPv6 route. However, concerted efforts are always underway to address these obstacles. I would say the first one, from the technical perspective, would be the limited IPv6 infrastructure support. As you may already know, the Ethiopia Telecom was the only state-owned telecommunication provider for the last 3-4 decades until recently, where Safaricom came into play. So technically, we have two internet service providers right now for 110 million people. So while it offers extensive mobile coverage and fiber optic networks, still the support of IPv6 has been marginal, I would say. So this limitation is really poses a challenge for public institutions who aim to implement IPv6-based services. That's one major technical challenge. The other challenge which I encountered as a president of Ethiopian IPv6 Council is that there appears to be an insufficient technical expertise. There is really a shortage of skilled professionals who are proficient on IPv6 technologies, on the consultation, configuration, and implementation as well, which really hampers the efficient deployment and management of IPv6 networks. So this gap in expertise can lead to implementation bottlenecks and delays, and at the end may even introduce some security vulnerabilities. So that's another point, technical point, which we need to ponder on. The third main technical challenge is also there's a lot of legacy systems who are not backward compatible. And then many government agencies, I was there last month, and I have seen that there are still some government agencies who run Windows 7. I have seen some. So many government agencies, they operate on legacy systems. They're not compatible with IPv6. So we have to transition these systems to support IPv6. These are the major issues which I encountered from the technical side of the house. But from the cultural and organizational perspectives, there is one resistance to change. I think most of you already know in some African countries, people are resistant to change, especially for the technology. If you conduct some users requirement to migrate or upgrade the system, they are curious, and then they will ask you, does it impact my job? Do I still need to be employed? So that resistance to change is hampering the IPv6 deployment from the cultural perspective. There is also limited awareness and training. I have had a chance to meet even various IT folks. I mean, Ethiopia is doing good on the transformation, deploying digital access, but from awareness and training on IPv6, especially the awareness aspect, we have to do a lot. I'm just working with various stakeholders, Dr. Latif and others. I'm even planning to host some conference sometime in November or December. We really need an awareness. There is a limited awareness on IPv6, so we have to work hard on that spectrum. The other issue is policy and regulatory constraints. The existing policies and regulations may not adequately support the transition of IPv6, so we have to create some policies at a national level for IPv6. And that being said, for overcoming these challenges, I would recommend craft a comprehensive policy development and advocacy. We can also work on those capacity building and training. We may collaborate with IPv6 Forum, Africa Telecommunication Union, International Telecommunication Union, AfriNIC, and other stakeholders. And then also we have to work on some infrastructure upgrades. Investments has to be directly made towards upgrading the current existing infrastructure to support IPv6 implementation, and also public awareness campaign. And also, at last but not least, we have to have international collaboration. Ethiopia is engaging with international partners and organizations to align its IPv6 adoption. So we have to create strategies with global best practices. That's really on my agenda in the next 4 or 5 months. I'm working on that, and then I'll collaborate with the IPv6 Forum as well to make this thing happen. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Prof. Thank you so very much there. And as I also get back to the to Dr. Chris, co-founder, Africa IPv6, I'm sure you're not surprised I'm bringing you back at every time because you are frontal and you're very important in these discussions. And at this point, as we look globally, what is the role of Africa IPv6 Cybersecurity Task Force in fostering cross-border collaboration and sharing threat intelligence specific to IPv6 across the continent, sir? Dr. Chris.
Thank you very much. And of course, let me just piggyback to honor Professor Zelalem for a very articulate and punch-on deliverables that is done. I would say awesome, incredible. Those are some of the roadmaps that we need to keep in the directory of moving Africa forward. Now, to the thematic about how we can leverage Africa in that direction that you have emphasized. First of all, I think we need to have, just as we have mapped out, this regional representative of IPv6 in Africa to be able to accelerate the adoption, which, of course, by the wisdom of Professor Latif Latid, the task force has created. We have a regional representative in Central Africa. We have regional representative in Western Africa. We have regional representative in Central Africa and in North Africa. So we're just waiting for the one of Southern Africa, which, of course, we have earlier, engaged, and the response are still building up. So having said that, we have an upper layer chaired by Professor Yusuf Yakub of Open Phone, the MD, the CEO of Open Phone in the US. He is a interregional coordinator of this people. So we have that layer, and they belong to the council. So you can see how those structures are in jigsaw working. So that's, in fact, that's what of the objective that has enshrined into bringing this conference into play, so that we can have an African-wide, dialogue on the future and the roadmap to Africa. I mean, if an African region gets it right, we can package that model to another African region. And when we do the chain gang, automatically you have one Africa talking to themselves through a dynamic platform. I would always argue, if China can deploy their services on 1.4 billion people, Africa can have an independent gateway that can do the same thing. It's not a rocket science. We can do that irrespective of the multilingual factors that are there. We shouldn't really be overwhelmed by the physical nature of that technology. The technology that we see is really on the ground. That attempt to question what is the percentage of software integration in the operationalism of all technology that drives the internet and the mankind. You will be amazed to see that really a lot of things are happening behind the scene. And that's why we need integration of experts, as Professor Zelalem has said. You must have, that handshake of many experts and layers of them, both psychologists, advisors, software, operational software, that makes up a team. So if you want to look at a secured tech environment, look at the team. First of all, look at the team, analyze the team, analyze their job functions, their capabilities, and all that. From there, you can really measure, the output of what they are doing, and of course, the vulnerability of that system as well. Because the man in the middle and the guys behind the scene are also, knocking at the door, and they know, oh, this guy is there and whatever. And the query that they know, they say, oh, this kindergarten aspect, and they can punch left, right, and center. So what we are saying is that you need to create a bond, a big bond that, can be controlled. One other thing is about data management at our centers of operationality, be it in IPv6 or IPv4. Okay, we litter data. We use phones that are vulnerable that people can hack. It will be recalled that really in the latter years, and it still happens now virtually, that people still pick the dustbin, the contents of the dustbin in front of the porch offices to find one or two informations. And guess what? They do find information that can pierce X, Y, and Z to them. They find pictures online, and to match those pictures on sending messages as if it is your pal that is sending the message. So there are a lot of layers and lessons learned that we can push into the African IPv6 task force domain to be able to ensure that everybody have one standard of operationality that we can bring into this sphere. I know that the moderator is there now, making looking at me, but be that as it may, on behalf of Professor Latif Ladid, his name has resonated forth and back and here, but people don't know what makes him tick. This is really a messiah that comes once in a millennium, and we want to thank him for being a co-founder of this platform and the assurances that with the great minds that we have here, on this platform going forward, we're going to rely on them to ensure that we can give the scaffolding and hand-holding to those who are coming behind us to move African digital environment and sovereignty forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much for your assurances. Thank you. I'll just briefly go back to Mr. Jake, and that I want to know that beyond avoidance, what is one positive strategy or best practice from another region that Africa should emulate immediately to accelerate its secure IPv6 deployment, sir?
Yeah, so I actually have a couple of examples that I think are a really good fit. And again, they were actually kind of discussed already in some of the previous talks. But one example is India and what they did from 2010 to 2022, where they were able to switch all of their government departments over to IPv6 by 2022, and they migrated 200+ million even by 2017. And the way they did that, very similar to the way China did it, is a top-down approach. And it was kind of a holistic approach, which has been talked about today, where it starts with government policy and government teaming up with industry leaders and everybody being on the same page, setting targets, making sure those targets are tracked, and then also all of those industry players coming up with educational standards that are shared between them. And so you have a cohesiveness that's formed and everybody is pointed towards the same target. And then that allows a lot of big things to happen. So China is now in the midst of it. They have a 2030 plan, and their current target is 70% actually by this year. So I haven't checked the latest data on that, but from everything I've heard, they're doing really well too. So I think that's definitely, those are two examples that Africa could emulate for sure. Another thing that I kind of wanted to add too, just because there's been a bit of discussion about it, is the AI factor and some of the new technologies, because of the position that Africa is in, where there's an opportunity to build all of this infrastructure from the ground up, where you have the opportunity to leapfrog a lot of the technical debt that other regions have accumulated with IPv4. Cote d'Ivoire being a great example of that talk earlier. Because of that, I think there's also a risk of this new technology coming in, because it's IPv6 is still not fully implemented everywhere. There's obviously new things that are going to pop up. I mean, we're having these discussions today about some of those things, but it's inevitable that there's going to be more stuff that pops up from the security standpoint. And so the industry that I'm in, one of the focuses that we have is to address these issues, and AI being a good example of this. You can extrapolate it into a bunch of different areas, but I think a good poster child is AI and AI deepfakes. And so losing trust in information is becoming an existential threat, where people are starting to completely lose trust in what they're seeing online. And it's only getting exponentially better, to the fact that there's more and more people. And I think, and you could probably, I mean, it wouldn't apply to the people in this room, but you could probably slot that into the age demographic as well. Younger people seem to have a built-in firewall to a lot of the stuff on the internet that the older folks don't seem to have. Obviously, the people in this room excluded from that, but that's becoming more and more prevalent. And so what our solution is it's a peer-to-peer micropayment system that uses blockchain, and it adheres to the original Bitcoin design. So it's not BTC, it's not cryptocurrency, but it's using high frequency peer-to-peer microtransactions and timestamping, which is essentially automated notarization, and each transaction costs fractions of a cent. So you could apply that to different payment networks as well, but just having that ability to timestamp things and certify them and check them really quick using simplified payment verification, which is section 8 of the Bitcoin white paper, you can combat a lot of these things by reframing how you're approaching the network in its entirety. And I think Africa is in a great position to look at doing that, as opposed to trying to go the same route that everybody else has already taken, and now we're seeing all the problems with that. It's an opportunity to rebuild from the ground up in a better way, I think. And I won't take up any more time. I'll stop there. Thanks.
Thank you. So thank you very much, Mr. Jakes, because even from the point of a software developer, this assessments and these comments are very, very relevant. And I think the notes are quite very insightful. Thank you so very much. And let me just take a moment back to dear Professor Mengistu, that I would like to know that regarding the future, how is Ethiopia? I'm particularly looking at Ethiopia. So when you also look at Ethiopia, please also remember us from the other part of Africa too. But how is Africa preparing its digital infrastructure of the coming wave of IoT and smart city applications that will utterly be dependent on IPv6?
Thank you. That's a very good question. As a matter of fact, as I told you, I was there last month, and I was really quite impressed by the advancements which I have seen. There is an authority called Ethiopian Artificial Intelligence Agency. They are really doing great. They are creating those incubation and various tech parks as well for the youth to be an active player on it. And they have this IPv6 first core network approach, which the Ethiopian Telecom and Safari are currently working on. They are trying to modernize their national IP backbone towards a Net5 architecture with segment routing with over IPv6, SRv6, with network slicing as well. And also they started the AD-IX, which is the first public internet exchange point in Ethiopia. So it currently operates as a sandboxed IXP. So that's a very good starting point. And it's under the supervision of the Ethiopian Communications Authority. So it's really a good infrastructure improvement in regards to that final goal. And also I have seen a couple of local hostings, including Raxio Tier 3 data storage, cloud storage in Addis, and there's also Wingu Africa, and also there is an ICT park. So I have seen three major hosting companies. They are working hard on this data sovereignty concept, trying to keep their data within the premises, within the national boundary. So right now, Ethiopia has an active national internet exchange point, as I said, in Addis, and local peering. Of course, it shortens the path between sensors and platforms and various users, and which is really critical for time-sensitive IoT traffic for safety concerns as well. As you know, we have more than 75 billion devices globally right now, so it's really imperative to have creating that robust infrastructure to accommodate those devices. And also from the policy perspective, the Ethiopia recently finalized a new data protection proclamation, which established a governing rule for handling personal data, PII. equivalent of PII, for any smart metering and video analytics and mobility data as well. So in parallel, these regulatory bodies are standing up the core enablers like government certification. They have the digital ID now. Any citizen have to have a digital ID, which tied to their sort of social security, equivalent of social security. So that's a very good progress which I have seen recently. Also, I have seen readiness for a massive IoT infrastructure. They are upgrading the core backbone. They have like 7 backbones through Ethio Telecom, and they have 2 backup backbones through Safaricom. So there are 7 backbones connected to the outside world. So it's really fault tolerant. That's really very good progress compared to what it was, say, 5-6 years ago. So what we are focusing on the next, what keeps up to keep the momentum is that we have to enforce IPv6 by default configuration on all public sector procurements. When ISPs put a bid for procurement, they have to have this IPv6 by default requirement so as to force bidders to comply by providing those types of devices which are IPv6 aware. And also we can publish a national IPv6 addressing and prefix delegation plan for IoTs per city, so that way we'll have a holistic approach, and then we'll avoid confusion down the road during deployment. If you have a robust IPv6 addressing scheme and prefix delegation, that's really a good starting point as well, which I'm focusing on to work on down the road in collaboration with the Africa IPv6 Task Force and the IPv6 Forum as well, and also expand the edge footprints in regional cities, and also define a baseline device security profile. I have seen, I think it's not only in Ethiopia, but in Africa, there is a scenario where every government agency have their own configuration baseline. There has to be one core configuration baseline. For instance, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Department of Ministry of Labor, Central Statistic Authority, every government agency should have a baseline with the security standards streamlined, as opposed to creating different baseline image. So that's another project which I need to work on, because it's a forefront for IPv6. As one of the presenters stated previously, that even if you deploy a 1 billion firewall, if you have a loose connectivity at the backend, you will lose everything. So we have to create this foundation of creating a secure baseline, a hardened device security baseline prior to implementing and configuring IPv6 devices. So that should be the bare minimum thing, and it should be on the forefront of everything before we move forward with this future IPv6 implementation. So to summarize, by combining this IPv6 native transport and domestic peering, we can create a strong data protection in cities, so that we can move forward and then reap the benefits which IPv6 have in stake for us. That's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Prof. Thank you so very much. I'm sure the consolidation of your thoughts will be very helpful for the regions. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'll be back to Dr. Chris. One of the final in that segment before we get into what what you give to us finally. Want to see what you want to know, that looking ahead, sir, what does success really look like for the task force in the next 2 years? What is your primary metric? Dr. Chris.
Yeah, thank you very much. Going by what we have currently, you'll agree with me that we have scaled up the commitment of functionalities across board. Currently, we have a segment in Guinea that is championing the IPv6 Cybersecurity Task Force for the French community, so that we can synergy. And of course, now that we have mechanism for translating English into French, which of course we have on this program at the end user base, we'll be able to communicate more effectively. and then, of course, being the handshake middle to government, will be able to reach out to the regional people to make sure that these things can happen. And don't forget, we are not just African-centric. We have also a handshake to Malaysia. We have Professor Suresh and Dr. Nana, the Malaysia and Villages, who are, of course, integrated in a handshake that we've been talking to. We have also the handshake with some of our contemporaries in the U.S., Lawrence Hughes, and of course there. And we have, as we were started with this capacity building and certification. Don't forget that really back to back, good question, moving forward, because when you talk about Africa, you really have to mass up the population. And of course, the density of this continent is mind-boggling. And of course, the representation of women and the girl child are there. We must be able to integrate them. So what we have done, and of course, back to back, we have a committee that is looking at Africa IPv6 champion pageant, for going forward the closure of 2025-2026, so that each region, will be the awareness backbone for women to come and speak either in local language or whatever would understand by IPv6, holding the kids along, to dialogue, ask questions and whatever. So the pageant, as it were, we have moderators, we have inspectors who will now, augment, all those things based on the metrics that have been drawn up to be able now to integrate themselves. Going forward also, these are what we are doing also involves some mechanism of financing and all those things. So we have regional empowerment where we can now create a sort of a sponsorship bouquet for them to be able to actualize, regional programs. Nothing stops us now by doing this conference, regional conference by regional conference, in quarterly basis. So we have a lot to be able to deploy, and we call all African eggheads and collaborators and friends, to be able to assist us in moving this forward.
Thank you. Thank you so very much.
Significantly, before I close, let me also appreciate the extraordinary commitment of Dr. Dorothy Gordon. She's been there for like decades, all the while. Professor Latif Ladid, they've been there all the while. And we want to ensure that, they continue to collaborate and empower and inspire us, going forward. Lastly, we know we have an egghead in the house, my very good friend Olushola Teniola of the fame of Phase 1, and of course he's a member of IPv6 that we can drink from his wealth of knowledge. And of course, I'm sure he has a significant role to play driving this movement forward. We also appreciate Nihiola, we appreciate our Hyundai from Morocco, who has been also some of the inspirators of this movement. And of course, we know when we talk about honor, giving honor to whom honor is due, I think the bouquet of honor goes to my very good friend, and I call him my son, Amos Emmanuel, who has been the sleepless giant in the house, making sure that we can deliver this to the world. Thank you very much, everybody, on behalf of co-founder, Professor Latif Ladid.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, sir. We are done with this session. This session actually wants to just close with a comment on just one piece of actionable advice. If I pick on Mr. Jake, what piece of actionable advice would you want to give every network and security professional? Like, I'm into software, and some of these things I imagine, and several practitioners in these fields, even engineering, looking so strange. What actionable actions could you want to offer, Jake?
I think just the one major rule, I think we're probably all familiar with it too, but always keep in mind, just try to keep things as simple as possible. Don't add complexity. Don't try to overcomplicate things. Just keep it simple, which is not actually always the easiest thing to do. It's sometimes the most difficult thing to do, but keep it simple, keep the system separate, and yeah, that would be my advice.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thanks.
very much. And Professor Mengistu?
Thank you. The one piece of actionable high impact advice I would probably give would be IPv6 deployment could be expensive, but ignorance is more expensive. So IPv6 is no longer a future tech. It's live, and attackers know it already. So the fastest way to stay safe is to gain visibility and build skills now. We don't have to wait for tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I want to bring back my co-moderator, Temitope. Please, an actionable thoughts.
Yeah, so I hear everybody talk about training, capacity building, and
Excellent.
the youthful exuberance that we have in the country. 3MTT is trying their best, but I feel we should do more. And there's a whole lot that we hear about the Yahoo boys all around. Let's begin to see how we can redirect their focus and how we can make them more digitally inclined and more positive. Thank you very much.
Merci. I wish to also bring at this closing point, Mr. Musa, also on the moderation team, your thoughts? Monsieur Musa, est-ce que vous êtes là? Monsieur Musa? Okay. All right. I can see Musa. Your thoughts? Okay, I'll bring back one of the backend activists, Nilola. Actionable thoughts?
All right. So for me, it's been a privilege to be part of, the committee to come up with this first seminar, and summit. And I know that this is going to be the beginning of greater things to come out of Africa. Just as we're looking at building our own, AI, building our own IPv6 in our own way, in our own understanding, to resonate with how things are being done in Africa. And of course, Africa being the, emerging market to look at right now. I'm super excited to be part of this. And just to say that awareness is key. We need to start training and retraining so that we can attract, our resources that have gone out to the West to come back to Africa and build Africa to be, not just a continent, but a continent that you can, that will build, digital footprint for the world. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you. Thank you so very much. And back to Dr. Chris. About 2 weeks ago, Mr. Chris, are you on the call?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
2 weeks ago, we had an opportunity of engaging with some of my stockbrokers. This is a fresh and a new community of ICT consumers at the stock exchanges across Africa. And I'm sure some of those security concerns you heard, what is actually the area, and perhaps your last comments too, what is the actionable goal so that some of these financial institutions or even other sectors could also benefit from what IPv6 Cybersecurity Task Force is doing, sir?
Thank you once more, Emmanuel. I think the most important aspect that one has noticed is the disconnect.
That's right.
One disconnect within the several intersections, because when we look at ICT, we just look at them as a holistical bunch, but it is not so. There are a lot of intersections, along those blocks that need to be polished and need to be streamlined so that there's fluidity. Just like a pipe, you cannot have the longest pipe in the world that doesn't have intersections that need to be bridged or one fits into the other. So going forward, we'll find out that the digital financial backbone of the country is vulnerable. And of course, there's been a lot of wastages and a lot of money. One, because of infrastructure understanding, the legacy instruments of the infrastructures, the issue of non-adequate flexibility and synergy within the workforce, which are talking about skill enhancement, training, and whatnot. And of course, the urgency to coordinate, for seamless activities and to respond to customers' need. I mean, if a customer, an investor, comes in on the trading floor, and of course, his proposal, probably bounces back because of the issue of latency, who takes the responsibility? You need to be able to give that reassurance and say, oh, this is what happens. It's in back office, it's being treated, and all those things. So I think what we saw is that, yes, there is this hunger for the capital market to grow, but then there's a little that is done into accelerating a dynamic backbone of digital efficiency into the mainstream. And of course, the capital market shouldn't just be for the capitalists alone. You need to bring the population inside that capital market to understand what it is. You could really start to teach capital market migration, at primary school in terms of hobby, clubs, and all what's not. And by the time you know it, they become big investors. And of course, they'll do that with tech in this area of blockchain technology. And of course, we're looking at cross-border payment issues that are there globally, and Nigerians are top of that game. And we need to be able to ensure that we have that secured under our aprons. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. I think at this moment, I would like to say I thank every panelist, every technical session speaker, and even the opening speakers. I can see everybody is still on. In fact, we are there as if the event is just about to start. From Dr. Dorothy Goddins, from there to Frank and Nati, from Jack Jones to, my co-moderators, and even architect Pierre Paulo Saporito, president of OCAM, and the organizer of the Info Poverty World Conference at the United Nations. Everybody's there. I can see Sirisha, Professor Zelalem, everybody's still staying as if we're just starting the event. And maybe at this moment,